everybody. Happy Friday. We have a fabulous stream with some really amazing stories. I can't wait to go over them. Thank you all for joining me. We're a little earlier today, and I see that's allowed many of our friends from across the globe to join in, which is fantastic because Mario is a global achievement. So I'm very excited to talk about it with everyone. Don't worry, Ivan, we will not spoil beef. The way we're going to do the beef review is the way that, oh, thank you, Jerome, gifting another membership, so kind. These are not my new glasses. These are my regular glasses. Someday I'll maybe debut the new glasses. So anyway, the way we'll do the beef review is the way that we did the Succession one, where we'll do it after the Q&A. First, I'll do a regular review of beef. And then I'll go into spoilers at the very, very end, so you can exit the stream and come back after hopefully you've watched the show. I watched it in 2 nights. It was excellent. Hey, Immortal Rashad. I'm still getting some sleep, the 50% Doctor Who podcast. I'm doing pretty good. Still working on my schedule a little bit. I will definitely get up. I think I'll get up just at 3 a.m. to do the final episode of Mando because it's just ridiculous. And I don't know how, I'll get a grip. I'll get a handle on it for Secret Invasion. But I really do wish that they would change the 3-hour drop times. All right, everybody, let's get going. As always, please try to keep your comments to the story at hand. And if you have something you want to ask me that does not fit with one of today's stories, save it for the Q&A, which is usually about 5 to 10 minutes long, so I'll be able to address a lot of things. Thank you, Matthew. That's very kind of you to gift some memberships. All right, so hold on. Let's get started. Story number 1. Boop! Oh, no, I covered up their achievement. 500 million in 9 days. Whew, that's amazing. That's impressive. It's only Friday. We haven't even gotten to Sunday yet. You know, I was like, should I save this to talk about until Movie Math on Sunday? Who knows where it'll be on Sunday? I mean, I don't think it'll get to 1 billion in a single weekend, but who knows? I mean, this is incredible. Oh, that's right. Boop, boopity, boop, boop, boop. I mean, look at Chris Pratt there. He did a video promoting a new Mario product where you too can own a gold coin, a life-size gold coin, and he was promoting that. But this is a very nice, not only is this fabulous for Illumination Entertainment, but it's very good for Chris Pratt, who, some people are saying, oh, he's not having a career slowdown. He is having a career slowdown. He doesn't have any major projects where he's the star that are going forward. He's having a very good couple of months right now, but, actors are always trying to book a couple of projects ahead because, you're only as good as your next project. So I think he should be able to get something off of this. I mean, he clearly can sell movie tickets, and that is the requisite for a film star. I think I just want to clarify, I have no problem with Chris Pratt being a religious individual. It's his evangelical behavior that bothers me. His trying to convert it to others. That's what bothers me in particular about Chris Pratt. He can do whatever he'd like in his personal life. I just don't want to hear about it. That's how I feel. And I do feel his relationship with his wife is a little weird. But I think that when he's on camera, he's great. I just don't love hearing about, his religion. So that's, and I have no problem, again, I want to make it very clear. I have no problem with him being a conservative religious person. It has very clearly saved him in a number of ways, but I don't want to hear about it. That's right, Mika, and I do feel it's weird that he continues to pretend that Anna Faris and his son doesn't exist. But, just like we don't want to hear about his personal life, I guess we shouldn't get involved in his personal life. All right, so let's talk about Super Mario Brothers. Oh, so much money. I had predicted that this would be one of the movies to make $1 billion this year, as you might recall. I thought it was down to Super Mario Brothers and Fast X. I thought that those were the 2 big movies that I thought were going to make $1 billion. Little Mermaid, I'm a little nervous about. But, I'm hoping that The Little Mermaid, which I totally get, I hope that The Little Mermaid can maybe perform as well. Because don't underestimate I'm really worried about the visual effects for the movie. But don't underestimate the power of The Little Mermaid. That is an incredible song list. It's a really fantastic story. And I'm hoping that maybe it could have like a Black Panther situation a little bit. That would be great, where the community in particular really supports it. So we'll see what happens. I think that the latest behind the scenes video looked pretty good. So there should be a new trailer soon, and then, obviously we'll see, I'm excited to see it and give my review, but I'm hoping The Little Mermaid is another Super Mario Brothers, basically. Now, unfortunately, I changed my prediction about $1 billion once I saw the movie, because I did not care for the film, and a number of critics didn't either. A lot of critics had the same reaction that I did to the movie, but apparently none of us play Super Mario Brothers. I can tell you that I know a number of you are like, how is it you've never played Super Mario Brothers? I have played like one game when I was little, and I gotta be honest with you, I did not care for it. Jerome, I respect, I appreciate what a great member you are of this community, but I don't think out of touch is an appropriate thing to say. You can say critics aren't familiar with the game. I think that's fair. But also, I think that that's very true, Sanyi. I am a big comic book person. I'm a big mythology person. I'm not a big gamer. I don't play video games. I don't even own a gaming console. So while I like getting into the mythology of gaming, which has allowed me to get into Mortal Kombat, for instance, I'm not into, playing video games, it just doesn't appeal to me, personally. And that's fine. It appeals to hundreds of millions of people who obviously who are able to have a ton of money. So that's very interesting. I always gravitated more towards things like, I like Tetris, I liked Sims, I like Roller Coaster Tycoon, I liked Sim Tower, I like that kind of stuff. Games that have like a puzzle element, or to some degree, I like Injustice because of the DC stuff. So that's very cool, and I like that. So I like things that are about building. I liked, one of my favorite games growing up was my mother had bought me a architectural tool where you could build spaces and furnish them. That to me was a whole summer. Hey, Dancing Dog 60. And you could put furniture and plants in there, and I made office buildings, and I did offices for my doll's fictional company that they'd made. When I was growing up, my dolls had a fictional company, and we had the head of the company and the vice president, and I made a whole office thing for them, and I made a security system. That's what was fun for me. I like interior, and then Sim Roller Coaster, which was so fun for me. I love designing, where's the merchandise and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I like to do. But I certainly am respectful and clearly video games are even bigger than I had anticipated. And if I were Universal, I would just go to Miyamoto over there at Nintendo, and I would say, what do you want to do? Here's a blank check. Do whatever you want. Oh yeah, I used to play a lot of Barbie. Aaliyah. I loved Barbie. But my Barbies were the ones who had the company, and they would go on camping, adventure trips. I never forget, I tied a rope around my Barbie's waist and was swinging around the Barbie on the top of the bunk bed and hit the ceiling so loud. I'm amazed the Barbie didn't break, but I'll never forget it. I was like, well, I'm going to stop swinging the Barbie. So that was funny. So anyway, those are the kind of things that I did. So I have absolutely no, I had no touch point. I was hoping that, I guess this is the thing. I was hoping that the Super Mario Brothers movie would get me into it, right? That I was like, wow, look at everybody who loves Super Mario so much. I'm excited to be a part of the party, as I said in my review. And then they were like, they didn't let me in, I mean, I don't think they kept me out, but there was no invitation for those of us who aren't familiar with it to join in. And I was disappointed by that. But that's fine, because apparently they're already at capacity. They don't need any more fans. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing how much money this is making. We're supposed to be talking about box office. All right, so anyway, I think that the Super Mario Brothers movie did an incredible job servicing an underserviced fandom. That, to me, was very clear. Not only do you have a very strong fandom here, but a fandom that has not gotten any attention. Look, a lot of us had no idea how popular it was because it hasn't been getting any attention outside of the video game space. I mean, wow. Like, I'd heard of, like, Pokemon and Sonic, but I had no idea that Mario was just so big. I mean, just so big. I mean, I'm just like, what's that meme, right? What's it from? Where she opens the door and there's a big flash of light and she's like, oh my God, right? It's the show that was recently renewed and brought back. And that's what I felt like with this box office and this fandom. iCarly, thank you. And I'm like, holy crap, like, my God, right? It's like discovering a huge amount of valuable substance that you don't even know what it is. It's not even gold or diamonds. I'm like, I don't even know what this substance is, but it's incredibly valuable, and I found a gigantic chunk of it. So also, a lot of you talked when I was tweeting today about it, because, I want to be respectful, and I want to give credit where credit is due. You guys have a mega hit on your hands. A lot of you said what you loved about it was, the nostalgia, as Chess just said, but also being able to experience the game like in a different medium on a huge screen. Some of you were like, not only did you like 3D, but you liked 4DX. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Like when I watched the Tetris movie, as I said, I like Tetris. So when I watched the Tetris movie, I was like, and they fixed the Tetris app, by the way. They fixed the Tetris app since I last talked to you about it, and it's pretty good. So you can play Tetris if you'd like on your phone. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, also apparently, small kids love this movie, like little kids. I've heard a lot of people online, I've seen a lot of people online tweeting about their experience, right? And they said that they loved hearing little kids talk during the movie. And I can tell you, when I've been in theaters and there are little kids, that is a lot of fun to hear little kids interact with it. And you're like, that's adorable. But there were no little kids in my theater. It was just a bunch of adults. So, obviously, sometimes for screenings, the studio will pack it with a bunch of fans to give that fan experience. So us critics who maybe aren't in the fandom, usually I'm in the fandom. This is a very rare instance where I'm like, I have no idea about this at all. And again, I wanted to be able to participate, but it was not engineered so that I could. But if I'd had a lot of kids around me being like, Mario, I'd be like, the kids love it. Huzzah. So that's great. So I'm very happy that everyone's having a good time. And I've been looking at ticket sales for the weekend, and they seem strong. So I think it's going to have a very good second weekend. So let's look at some charts. I have some visuals for you. All right, so fastest to 500 million. Unfortunately, Super Mario at 9 days does not make the top 10. But don't worry, I think it could still make the billion top 10. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here you can see the fastest films to get to 500 million worldwide. The fastest, you have to do it in about 7 days to make the top 10. However, I would like to point out that there is not a single animated movie on this list, not even Avatar. So that is, Avatar: The Way of Water is there. But that's really impressive. So this is a big deal. And I think that, I don't want to say anything negative about Disney. I don't think that that's helpful, okay? But if I were Disney, I would be like, I'd be like, let me look at this. Because, and also some of you have pointed out, Disney has not wanted to get into the video game space. They're willing to license it. I have a friend who's obsessed with Disney Emoji Blitz. Obsessed. And I think that maybe perhaps Disney might want to look into this a little bit more. I think that, some of you are saying Kingdom Hearts, but that seems to me a little bit like Wreck-It Ralph, with all the IP blended together. But, maybe if I were a Disney executive and I saw how well Super Mario was doing, I would be like, all right, let's go talk to the Kingdom Hearts people, because this is just so much money. It's just so much money. It's the kind of money that makes you throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, how can we get in on this? So it didn't make the top 10 fastest to 500 million, but it's close at 9 days. But let's look at the billion, fastest to a billion. All right, so this I think is still doable. With 19 days, you can make the chart. And remember, that's 10 days from now. That's 10 days still. Mario still has 10 days. I think they can do it. I think they can make this chart. Now, it still has yet to open in Japan and Korea, where it should make tons of money. My God. But that's not opening until the end of the month. It still has a whole nother week before it even opens there. I think April 28th is when it opens in Japan, which is nuts. So I don't think that's going to help with this, but I don't know if it needs to. Also, Super Mario, we'll talk about this on Sunday. It's one of the very odd situations where you have like a 50-50 split between domestic and international. And that's unusual. That's unusual. It's usually 60 to 70% overseas. So that's also a very good sign. But also, I think it shows that a lot of the overseas box office hasn't come on the board yet. Andrea, I don't know why they waited so long for it to go to Japan. That seems crazy to me. But luckily, this is not a movie that has no spoilers. I mean, there's nothing to spoil. It's just experiencing the game in a movie format. Now, let's talk about that a little bit before we go on to the next story. What's next? I think Super Nintendo World will clearly continue to be very popular, although I think it's too small. Epic Universe, which they're building in Orlando, is supposed to be a bigger version of that park. They have it currently in Japan and Hollywood, the theme parks, but from what I hear, a number of people feel like it's too tiny and it makes it hard to really enjoy the land. So, and they also only have like one attraction, so they need to work on that. But I think obviously in the theme park business, this is going to be big as well. Then future Nintendo projects. And how nice is it the Nintendo, the creator of all this, gets to live to see this and to be a part of that. That must be extremely rewarding for him. We're going to talk about Zelda, Quasar. We're going to talk about Zelda. But then also, all right, let's do it now. Future Nintendo projects. Zelda. As Thomas just said, everybody, I think, is like Zelda. Although it seems to me that Zelda's a little bit more story-based. Is that true? I'm definitely going to approach Zelda differently, you know? Like, whoo! I respect the Nintendo fandom. Totally understand it now. But I would think, so Zelda maybe would be a little bit easier for me to get into. I told you that they wanted Tom Holland to play Link. I told you that was casting they were interested in, but I think perhaps I would do it animated instead of live action. What would you want? Let me ask you for Zelda. If you would want it animated or live action? Zelda movie. Live action or animated? Live action. Animated. There's only two choices. So there's your poll. And then also, what are they going to do about expanding the Nintendo brand? Can Nintendo continue to have no story? I guess if that's what the game is like, I think they have to do it per game. I mean, I told you in last week's Movie Math, this frees up other adaptations to not have to insert story where story is not needed. They're like, nobody cares. That's funny, Mika. They're like, you don't need a story. That's not why everybody likes this game. And you go, okay. I mean, that's just really fascinating to me. I know, Danny, a lot of people want the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. And if I were Universal and Nintendo, well, if I were Universal, this is what I would do if I were Universal in animation. I would say, I would love to have a Nintendo Cinematic Universe. And then I would go to Nintendo and I'd say, you build it. And I'll just make it. Because I think this is a very, very distinct sensibility that is totally foreign to how you make movies and tell stories in Hollywood. And Nintendo clearly knows how to do it. So it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Also, Pokemon. Pokemon is probably like, what the heck? Why did Detective Pikachu not do better? Perhaps because they focused on the Detective Pikachu storyline instead of just Pokemon. I know that Netflix has a Pokemon series coming up, and I hear they are extremely happy with it. I heard that some of the animation tests are incredible. In fact, they feel it's better than anything that's been done before. So perhaps after this, Netflix must feel particularly good about their upcoming Pokemon show. All right, I'll give you a couple more minutes to vote in this poll, and I'll get to some of your Nintendo questions before we get on to the next story, because I see a couple of super chats coming in here. All right, so Voice Inject says, Metroid Please, a woman protagonist space bounty hunter. I got to tell you, I like that. I ain't going to apologize for liking to see myself on screen. I mean, I certainly can relate to male characters, but it's weird sometimes when I watch something and there are absolutely no women involved in it whatsoever. Aston Lowther says, I have a vendetta against the Super Mario movie because it stole all the premium screens for Dungeons & Dragons. Aw, yeah, and it really hurt John Wick, too, by the way. Both Dungeons, John Wick could have used those premium screens. John Wick not holding up, which is fascinating, but Mario is. Poke pointed out that every other video game adaptation goes live action, while Mario stayed animated. Oh, love it. Let's see here. Anna Cosell says, if it were animated, I'd be worried about Illumination's involvement. I don't think their style is fitting for the story. I'd go, oh, that's an interesting, Anna, that's a great point. I think Illumination is perfect for Super Mario, but I think you want someone a little more anime-centric and maybe closer to 2D for a fantasy story like Zelda. I think I'm going to like Zelda a little bit more because it's got fantasy elements in it. It's more story. Super Mario really is like the equivalent of Emoji Blitz, but like in a movie. And I'm like, what? For an hour and a half? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, if you don't have the nostalgia factor. Sean says, animated for Zelda and bring in a cinematic universe to do a Super Smash Brothers Infinity War event. Let's see if they can build it. If they built it and you did come. Stephen Turner says, animated would separate Zelda from House of Dragons, Lord of the Rings, and other fantasy shows. That's interesting. Let's see how the animated Airbender, Avatar The Last Airbender movies do that are coming up. Aaliyah, how hi Aaliyah? Nintendo gets 50% of the profits from the film. Thank you for bringing that up, Aaliyah. I'll write that down and remind myself for movie math. That's right, but Nintendo's just not getting that for nothing. Nintendo put up half of the financing. So Nintendo's getting 50% of $1 billion. So they're going to get $500 million. But, that's the thing. That's why you want to do financing. That's why there are film finance companies, and that's how they're able to make money. But, yeah, hey, Nintendo put their money where their mouth was. They said, we'll do half the money, and want you to do it the way we say. And Universal listened to them, and look at all the money they got. Wow, it just exploded. Timothy Chalamet for Link? That's an interesting choice. Let's see if he's really dating, Kylie Jenner? Look, Zendaya for Zelda. If Tom is Link, that's interesting. I like Zendaya a lot. John Teal says, Disney, where's my live action gargoyles? That's a great idea. Robert Downey Jr. is Xanatos, and no politics. I don't know. I think I gotta tell you, I know you guys say you don't like politics and stuff, but I think that sometimes this stuff is important. I'm reading all these articles about artificial intelligence. And I'm like, did nobody see Terminator? What about Skynet? The whole point of Terminator was not only to entertain, but whenever artificial intelligence came up in the future, for people to be like, I saw Terminator, no Skynet for us. But it reminded me when I thought of that, how so many of you haven't seen Indiana Jones and how many of you have not seen Back to the Future. And I was like, it seems a lot of you have not seen Terminator and have no idea about Skynet. Let me do a poll on that. But hold on, let me end this current poll. 69% of you want animated Legend of Zelda. That's great. 68% animated. That's fantastic. I'd love to see adult animation become more popular in the Western marketplace. Have you seen any Terminator movies? And then, yes, there's only 2 answers, yes or no. But I feel like, it's crazy to me. Let's see here. So let me get a couple of more questions and I'll get on to the next story. Eden says, do you think the Minecraft movie will succeed? Who knows anymore? If they capture the game, then yes, maybe it will. I mean, I don't understand the game at all. Devin says, Grace, look into Smash Bros. To get an idea of the IP available to expand on. I think they have a great library to jumpstart this universe. Are you kidding? If I were a Universal executive, I'd live, sleep, and drink Nintendo. I'd be like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? But I don't have any skin in the game, so I'm like, okay. I mean, I think that it's going to be obvious that going forward, I need to approach these movies in a different capacity. And this has never happened before, which is again why I called it a game changer. This has never happened before in Hollywood. HC Tube 3 says they can make an Avengers level movie with Smash. You guys really like Super Smash Brothers. I don't even know what Super Smash Brothers is. Woo! All right, B Sponge says, I've never heard of Super Smash Bros. Nintendo could easily make a cinematic universe with a crossover game like this. It was even referenced in Ted Lasso. I mean, I kind of know what it is. Like, if someone says that, I'm like, oh yeah, I think that's like Super Mario, right? But I have no idea about it. Driven Slush says, newbie here. Disney will go Atari Frogger next. Well, let's see. And then Ryan says, everything is live action these days. It's nice to have a fun animation again. That's great. I do love animation. I'm a big fan. Cool Guy says, how would a Legend of Zelda movie even work? Link does not speak. That's okay. As long as he does cool stuff, nobody cares. Raoul said, I mean, I gotta tell you, Cool Guy, I might in the past have understood what you were saying, but now I'm like, well, he doesn't speak. That's it. End of story. Because, usually you would be like, our lead character has to speak. But now I'm like, don't touch it. Leave it exactly as it is. Let's see here. Raul Ortiz says Miyamoto would not allow live action. Whatever Miyamoto wanted. Whatever. Honestly. I'd be like, Miyamoto, you're so awesome. What do you want? Anything that you want. Smash Brothers is Nintendo's Mortal Kombat. Yeah, didn't it win a fighting game award or something? Isn't it like, didn't Warner Brothers do a version? They did their own version of Smash Brothers, right? Yes, I've seen that deep fake, John. All right. All right, let's move on to the next story of the day. And that's interesting, Ivan, about Ana de Armas, and that's not a bad idea because the Latino audience seems to particularly love Nintendo. So, I would definitely consider casting some more actors from that group. All right, and then Dolan says, Super Smash Bros. Is a mega crossover game where all of Nintendo's characters come together in a brawl of epic proportions. Dolan, you should write the description on the box. Think Injustice. It's perfect for a cinematic universe. That's incredible. Look, Brenda. Hey, Brenda! Brenda's booping us to the next story. All right, let me just close this poll and we'll go to the next story. 75% of you have seen a Terminator movie, but I got to tell you, I would have thought it would be higher. I would honestly expect it to be like 90%. And even then, I would be like, that's a little low. I would think it would be 95% would have seen a Terminator movie. So I guess the 25% of you are working on artificial intelligence. Hey, Heather. That's incredible. That's incredible. You gotta watch the Terminator movies and the early ones. Terminator 1 and 2. All the other Terminator movies are not good. Don't watch the other ones. Toon Dude, where's your thing go? Oh, Tom Holland would make a great Link for Zelda. That's what they wanted, Toon Dude. They wanted that. They've been interested in that, but maybe now they'll go animation. All right, let's go on to the next story. A T2 is incredible. All right, Danny. Boop, boop, boop. All right, boop, next story. Here we go. Hold on. All right, here we go. Boop. Oh, yeah, Mia Goth finally got a super upgrade. Talk about leveling up to the MCU. I know a lot of you wanted her to be Harley Quinn, but she cannot be. I mean, who knows after they just double dipped on David Harbour, but I would think that it would be unlikely. Lone Wolf Media, by the way, I saw you on Twitter. I wanted to tell you I appreciated what you did. I've been a fan of yours since Alien Covenant, and your support for the LGBT community has meant so much. Having allies like you really help us fight the fight. That's so kind of you, Lone Wolf Media, and thank you for being very supportive of me over the past week. I did see that. You really went above and beyond. All right, so Mia Goth. Mia Goth is an interesting actress. I have known about her since I actually interviewed her a couple of years ago for A Cure for Wellness, one of her earlier movies. But she's doing these movies. She did X, then Pearl, and she has the upcoming Maxine, and also Infinity Pool, which recently came out with Alexander Skarsgård. And she has become a major horror standout. Like, people in like highbrow horror love her. Like, she has a small but very strong fan base. I would say that what she gives Blade is horror credibility, horror street cred. A lot of horror fans are going to be like, okay, now we think this movie's kind of cool because it has Mia Goth in it. My question is, though, is Mia Goth able to be mainstream? Mia Goth is not a mainstream actress from what I've seen of her. I think she makes unusual choices. Now, that could work, but, Joaquin Phoenix, she's a little bit like Joaquin Phoenix, who worked great in Joker, but, what is the movie around her going to be like? Like, to some degree, perhaps Mia Goth should have been like in DC, because I think DC is a little bit more willing to be artistic, whereas I feel like Marvel has a little bit more of a machine. And, the machine's hitting some speed bumps, but still, that's why I'm interested, with Beef, which we're going to talk about in a few moments. Beef is like Rooney Mara. Rooney Mara is a good comparison. I agree with that one. I'm not seeing Emma Stone at all, which some of you are saying. Maybe you think that if you're just looking at this picture, but if you've actually seen her on camera, she has like a baby doll voice. That's like her natural voice. She's a very unusual actress. So I'm curious to see how that works. Like, I think I was surprised that Nia DaCosta didn't bring any of her artistic flair from Candyman to the Marvels. You would never guess, in fact, that it was the same director. I did interview her, Keith, as I mentioned at the beginning of this story. Jake, I am not a fan of her work, to be honest with you, but I respect the success that she has achieved. That's how I would put it. I think that I'm not a fan personally. I don't dislike her work, but I certainly recognize the success that she's had and the fan base that she has gathered. So, but I have to tell you, that fan base will be furious, absolutely furious, if Marvel waters her down. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think Marvel's playing with fire to use this actress and not use her correctly, because she'll just make it'll just make her fans upset. That's what Hollywood sometimes doesn't seem to understand. Now, maybe Mia Goth, Danny, will she be watered down? If she can water herself down, if Mia Goth can deliver the mainstream version of herself, that would be best for everyone. So that's important, and let's see if she has that in her. Now, some of you are mentioning that Shia LaBeouf is her husband. I don't know. I think they are married. I think they got divorced, but they're back together. They recently had a child together. So Shia LaBeouf, this will be interesting. Shia LaBeouf has had some serious accusations against him in scandal, but he has owned it. And I think he handled himself very well opposite Olivia Wilde with the whole situation with Don't Worry, Darling. So I think this could be interesting for him. I think this could be an interesting opportunity for Shia LaBeouf. Because when Mia Goth starts doing all these interviews and starts going on all these red carpets and stuff, will Shia LaBeouf be with her? Will this put Shia LaBeouf back in the spotlight? Will she be talking about him? It could be really interesting. I don't know if people can forgive Shia LaBeouf, even if he does do the work. But, it might be a little bit of a threat of him to be able to maybe pull himself back to a degree. So I'll be interested about that. Brittany Murphy would have been a really good Harley Quinn. That's so sad about what happened to her. Steven, that's interesting. Shia LaBeouf still hasn't gone to trial for what happened with his ex-Twig. So we'll see what happens. But, he's in a bad situation. But yes, he is, I don't know if they're still married, but they were married at one point, and they are currently together, and they have a child. Now, is she playing Lilith? That's the word on the streets. Wink, 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 nudge, nudge. That's what people are saying. So who is Lilith? Lilith is the main villain in the Midnight Suns video game from Marvel. In Marvel, she has a different, I think she started out in Marvel being Dracula's daughter. And then in some cases, she has been Dracula. And, in the usual lore, Lilith is Dracula's, lover / minion. Like his Mercy Graves from Lex Luthor's assistant. Hey, Alton. So that kind of works. Will she be made up as a demon? Marvel has her with big horns coming out of her head. Her color scheme is very purple. So, I'm not sure how she's going to look. We'll see if she looks like that. Also, Lilith was a major character in the recent Sabrina Netflix series, which I thought was excellent. But Yann Demange is finally the director on this. They had to switch up directors. They've switched up screenwriters. This thing is a mess. But Yann Demange, of course, directed that first episode of Lovecraft Country and did an incredible job. So I feel kind of good about Yann Demange. Yann Demange directing a Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali and Mia Goth is pretty strong. I got to tell you. I wouldn't spend that much money on it, to be honest with you. Let me ask you. How much money would you spend on this? I mean, I want the action to be good. So let's see here. Under 100 million. 100 million. These are approximate, obviously. 150. And then some of these movies are 200 million, which is nuts. But this wouldn't be 200 million. So you guys can vote. I know what my vote is. Let's see. 1 trillion, Caden. That's hilarious. I mean, I want it to look good, but I do worry about, and let me tell you, while you guys vote, let me just tell you, I'm a little nervous about putting vampires in the MCU. I'm scared. I think they already have genies. They have mutants coming up. They have like all this stuff. They have Asgardians, And I'm like, oh yeah, werewolves. I'm like, how the heck are vampires? Hey, Ryan, how are vampires going to come in here? And for a while there, vampires interacted with the X-Men, and Jubilee became half vampire. Or I guess vampire. And I was like, what? I mean, I didn't like Jubilee being a vampire. I thought it was ridiculous. So I just don't know how I feel about vampires in the MCU. Like, we're going to have all this stuff, and we're going to be going along, telling our story. We have got aliens, and then we have witches, that's right. And then vampires show up. Like, what about if Wanda goes up against a vampire? I'm going to be like, what am I watching? So I just don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out. I mean, we're doing it. So I'm going to, hopefully it turns out great. I do think this is a really good, strong team, but I think it's crazy. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because we're going to go on to beef and we'll go do the Q&A and then we'll go to beef. So do you have any questions about the Blade movie? Danny says, Grace, will this be like Multiverse of Madness watered down to fit the MCU world? I'm nervous about it. Logan, people are saying that Mia Goth is playing Lilith. That is what people are saying. And I have to tell you that even if some of us are like, okay, that's a vampire, I worry about the normies and the casuals who are like, seriously? Right? I mean, that really scares me a little bit. The Dark Savior says, what kind of blade is Blade going to use? I would assume a number of blades, right? Is Wesley doing a cameo? I hope Wesley Snipes is doing a cameo. I think it would be a huge mistake for him not to, we see. Blair Wraith says, I just hope they don't butcher her like Christian Bale, where the role doesn't support the room for its talent. What do you mean? Oh, you mean with like Gore the God Butcher? Yeah, that was really a shame. What a waste of a character and an actor. And he had moments where he was brilliant. Do people love vampires, Emily? I think they kind of do. I kind of like vampires. I mean, I guess they certainly get me to pay attention. Recognize Justy. I'm not sure if it's going to be rated R. I don't know. Dancing Dog 60. Katie M. O'Brien was definitely wasted in Quantumania, but she's so good on The Mandalorian. I'm like, what a cool person. Writer Boy says, how do you think the movie Blade will tie into the MCU and the multiverse? There's obviously going to be probably some grand plan from Dracula, and that's probably what it's going to be. And also, a lot of times, Blade joins teams. I don't know why. I mean, sometimes if they have to fight vampires, they're like, let's go get Blade. And then you're like, Captain America versus a vampire. Again, what am I watching? This is the kind of stuff that sometimes makes it embarrassing to explain comic book storylines to your non-comic book friends. They're like, oh, what are you reading? And you're like, well, Captain America's fighting a vampire because Dracula's trying to take over the mutants. And you can just see the look on the face of the person you're talking to who doesn't read comics thinking you're ridiculous. And you're like, it's very popular. Danzig, maybe Midnight Suns, but how many corners in the MCU can there be? Are we doing Young Avengers? What's happening? Let's see here. Wandering Seth says, MCU is an action problem. They can't focus on good fight sequences because they're already too focused on visual effects. I would agree with that. I hope they get better. Like Endgame. Endgame is such a good movie. It's crazy to me how good that movie was, and they have not been able to repeat it. All right, let's close the poll here. Tari says Blade is supposed to be English. Should Mahershala Ali have an English or a British accent? Yes, he should. I am very much in favor of that. Also, as even Kevin Feige is saying, there's too much stuff in New York at this point. Let's move to different countries and cities. I think it's very refreshing. All right, 41% of you said 100 million. That's what I would spend on it as well. I think 100 million. They made Shazam for 100 million. They made Air for about 100 million. They made John Wick 4 for 100 million. 100 million is enough for this movie. I wouldn't go any further. Some of you would like to go to 150. 23% would go under 100, and then 7% of you are all in, baby. You're all in. You're like, 200, let's go to town. I want all the fake blood in the world. Bye, Jerome. You didn't offend me, Jerome. Don't worry about it, Jerome. I don't want you to feel like you offended me at all. All right, so let's get on to the Q&A, and then we'll do beef, because, again, beef is going to start out with no spoilers. But then we're going to go to spoilers, and so I want people to be able to do the Q&A section. All right, so hold on. Where is it? Okay, Q&A. All right, let's do, it's 3:31. Let's do till 3:40. 3:40. Mika Renfield flopping thoughts? I'm not surprised. It's very much a streaming movie, but I haven't seen the numbers yet. Stephen Turner says, did you see the casting with Nani and the reaction? I have seen many pointing out Disney's history with colorism and whitewashing. I trended all last night and still is. Do you think the Lilo movie is DOA? So for those of you who aren't familiar, they announced who was playing Lilo's big sister last night. And while she apparently does seem to have some Hawaiian heritage, she's at the very least white passing. And I would agree that I think that for people, especially because that character, when that character came out, if you're not familiar with Lilo and Stitch, it meant a lot to people, not only because the character was, very much representing the Hawaiian community, but the body positivity of the character as well. So if you don't mimic both of those things in the movie, I think you're going to have a big problem. So let's see. But I think that you're going to have a lot of criticisms of that movie for sure. Lone Wolf Media said, years ago I suggested a Star Wars horror film and you said you wouldn't do it. Now, years later, do you think it's a viable option? Well, Lone Wolf Media, I think in the right thing. I wouldn't put vampires in Star Wars, but I would like The Acolyte, which is a story of the Sith and the dark side, to have horror elements in it. I think using that genre in that story would be very compelling. Let's see here. Brett says, 2 questions. Did you see the rumor Asher Angel is in talks to star in How to Train Your Dragon? I think you're the one who told me that, Brett. I did not. I saw the rumor. I haven't heard it myself. But I don't think he's a good choice. And then another rumor, Andrew Garfield appearing in live action for the Spider-Verse. Just back to How to Train Your Dragon, Hiccup is supposed to be kind of like nerdy. And that's just not Asher Angel. I think it's a very bad choice. Andrew Garfield appearing in live. I did not hear that about Spider-Verse. And I wouldn't want to ruin that even if I did hear it. But I didn't. I didn't hear that. Weesey says, is this the Emma Stone fiasco again? What do you mean by Emma Stone? What fiasco? I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. That Wiccan fan says, any Young Avengers tea, still hoping for Hulkling's parents to be hinted at in Marvels or Secret Invasion so he can be introduced later somehow. Yes, me too. I haven't heard anything about him coming on the board yet. I just know he's not in, Agatha Coven of Chaos. But I would love to see Hulkling, especially because we have Billy on the board. Alberto says, do you think Wesley Snipes should do just one cameo or reoccurring in the MCU? I don't know. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know what the situation. Wesley Snipes has had some controversies in the past. Like Delroy Lindo, whatever role he's playing, maybe it should have been Wesley Snipes, to be honest with you. I would like him to have an action sequence. I'd be like, can we give him an action sequence? Maybe he could be Blade's dad or something like that, or someone Blade knows like in his origin story. Schlock says, hey Grace, love your videos. Let's do a poll on Harley actress. I appreciate your BTT emojis. That's funny. That's great. I don't know because they're not up for being cast, you know? I don't think that maybe Anya Taylor-Joy is the only one. So I appreciate your enthusiasm, though. Is that you? Is that your picture? Let's see here. Screen Favorite says, thank you for all your hard work in creating a fun and inclusive community. It is my absolute pleasure. I love talking to all of you. John Kelly says, do you co-sign Tom Holland as Martin and Robert Downey Jr. as Doc? I do not. I think that's a funny thing, but although I am excited to see the Back to the Future play, which the musical. I'm going to be seeing that when it comes to Broadway. Jake says, Grace, my boyfriend and I are making brownies. Ooh, what's your favorite baked good? Chocolate chip cookies, hands down. I absolutely love chocolate chip cookies. I like soft chocolate chip cookies. I'm a very big fan of them. Guy from King's, I hope your brownies turn out. Guy from King's Highway says, I made brownies once with applesauce. It was really disgusting. Guy from King's Highway says, staying up all night to review Russell Crowe's The Priest's Exorcist. Now, I won't be reviewing that movie, but I am seeing Evil Dead Rise on Wednesday, and I will review it on Thursday. That's when the press screening is. I'm scared. You know I don't do well with horror. I'm scared. But that's good. I'm scared in a good way, because it looks super scary. I'm very scared. Let's see here. I've not heard any updates on Jonathan Majors. It will be okay. Mr. Jojo, we're going to talk about beef last. So at 3:40, we're going to talk, in 4 minutes, we're going to switch to beef. Britt, I'm not going to see Beau is Afraid. I canceled my tickets. The Rotten Tomatoes score is too low. It's a 3-hour movie, and I had such a bad time seeing Hereditary. I mean, I thought this was a situation where we had to see it. And I was like, you know what? Peace out. So I'm not going to see it and review it. Just Josh, are we making you hungry? You know, no disrespect to Delroy Lindo. I love Delroy Lindo. He was so good in that recent Spike Lee movie about Vietnam. But, do we maybe want, Wesley Snipes? Potterhead says Jared Harris is Dumbledore in Harry Potter series, son of the original actor. No, I liked the Murray Bartlett idea, to be honest with you. Murray Bartlett as Dumbledore was a really good suggestion that somebody had on the previous live stream. I'd love that. I feel bad that people don't like Jude Law's depiction of the character more. I thought that the ending of the last Harry Potter movie, Fantastic Beasts, where he walked away not going to the wedding because he was so sad about his own personal life, I thought that was really powerful stuff, and I felt bad that it didn't get more respect. Oh, we see, you're right, Emma Stone playing Allison in that movie where she was Hawaiian, Chinese, and Swedish descent. Aloha. That was ridiculous. I forgot about that. And Emma Stone's like, whoo, hope everybody forgets about it. All right, let's see here. The Dark Savior says, is Mia Goth too weird for you, Grace? I don't want to say that. I feel that's too disrespectful. I'm just not feeling the vibe, Cole Jackson says, would you be open to discussing the remaining Succession episodes on Monday live streams if you won't do full reviews? I don't know if I'll discuss every episode. Let's see how slow things are. But I might discuss the whole series because it's going to be over. Let's see here. Danny says, how did the Marvels trailer do? I saw people saying it was the most disliked Marvel trailer of all time. I'm so sick and tired of those stories about dislikes on YouTube. That app lies. That app is not correct. And I'm upset. I would not, it would be what it was if those numbers were correct. But people are touting incorrect numbers. They did it to Little Mermaid. They're doing it to the Marvels. And it's just, it's not true. And so it really bothers me. I wish people wouldn't publish those stories. I mean, if some trolls want to put that up, what are you going to do? But I wish that people, that's why I don't cover it. Don't talk about it because it's ridiculous. Marvelous says, who would you cast Ana de Armas as in the MCU? Hosting Saturday Night Live this week. Sue Storm, Jean Grey? I don't know. I think Ana de Armas is a little overexposed at this point. She was my choice for Poison Ivy. She's going to be the ballerina. She's taken over John Wick. Let's see how she does. She was good in Bond. Paul, where did your super chat go? How did I not see it? Oh, my goodness. Devin says, any tea on changes Feige is making? Well, all the scripts are being rewritten. Writer Boy says, what are your thoughts on Keke Palmer playing Storm? I don't think she has the regal quality for it. I like Jodie Turner-Smith better for that. Kayla Babb says, what is your guilty pleasure TV show? Bravo reality TV, by far. Oh, I love it so much. I like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I like $1 Million Listing. It makes me so happy. Let's see here. What else did I miss? Paul, hey, Zachary. Paul, I don't see your comment there. Oh, thank you for the Super Smash link, Juan. Ryan says, if you changed your mind about the Harry Potter reboot at all? I was surprised that some people were into it, so let's see how it does, but I still think it's a bad idea. Paul says, how do you think Star Wars can bring back general audiences? It's really good right now, but I understand why it can be so confusing for new fans. I'm not sure, Paul. I think maybe just a really big movie. I think we're seeing a fracturing of audiences because there's so much content and it becomes harder and harder to become a part of it. It's just really tough. Melita, that's so kind of you to gift some more memberships. I saw that you did that before. Hey, G. Karaskakis. Hey, Grace, just a comment. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I think the fan community reacted so badly to your Mario comments because it reminded me of what happened with other genre. Let's see here, 1 second. Hey, Grace, just a comment. I think the fan community reacted so badly to your Mario comments because it reminded of what happened with other genre that's been made for modern audiences and the OG fans have been pushed out. I think, I can certainly understand that element. I think the biggest problem was that conservative audiences who are very aggressive and, that's part of their story is the aggression. That's what I think really made it toxic. And I think, that's what happens to a lot of projects, unfortunately, these days. I certainly respect the Nintendo fandom. And I can see what you're saying about OG fans being pushed out. But I can't really feel where that's happened. I know some people are saying that about Star Wars, but I don't think that's true. Lizzo said, I thought Lizzo was great, where she said, how is anyone calling me a popular kid? When she said she had a lot of trouble herself growing up. And I thought, and again, it's like, don't project. Don't assume to have walked in someone else's shoes. Juan says, I love scary movies, but sometimes they do spook me. But the Conjuring movies I love, and The Right too. Anthony Hopkins was amazing there. I've not seen The Right. John says, who should play Dr. Doom? I liked Michael Fassbender. That was a good idea. Andrew Scott, where's he gone? And then Billy Zane says, what's going on? We're going to do a few more questions, and then we got to move to beef. Says, Billy Zane for Lex Luthor says, what's going on with Matthew Vaughn's film Argyle with Henry Cavill? No trailer, no release date. That's a very interesting question, Billy Zane for Lex Luthor. And also kudos on your continued campaign. But it seems not good for that movie. Henry Cavill, he's got such bad luck, and he does most of it to himself. But I do like him on screen. He's like Chris Pratt in some degree. All this off-camera stuff is ridiculous, but I do like him very much on screen. Jake Chandler says, is Secret Invasion going to have any repercussions on the Marvels? I don't know. I think it's a shame if it doesn't. I think what was so great to me about Endgame was that it had repercussions. Danny, yep, that's right. That's right, Danny. Let's get to beef. We're going to get to beef, okay? Let's get to beef. And Cole Jackson, Tom is joining the MCU. Tom just joined Deadpool 3, remember? All right, so so that's the end of the Q&A. Now we're going to talk about beef, okay? All right, hold on. Here we go. Where'd it go? All right, boom, baby. I will review Peter Pan and Wendy, Potterhead 7. I will review that. All right, let's talk about beef. There was no beefcake in beef. There was a lot of sexy time in beef, though. All right, so beef. First, this is the non-spoiler part of the discussion. When we move to spoilers, I will put up a giant spoiler sign so you will know. Oh, hey, Archie. Oh, Archie, you're so nice. Let me go find your comment, and then we'll move on. Grace, was it just me, or did the Marvels trailer look like a poorly shot TV show? I said that in my reaction. Remember, Archie? Marvel needs to invest more in behind the camera talent. I totally agree, Archie. You couldn't be more right. If you don't know Archie went on a John Wick tour of Paris. He took the channel from London. He's based in the UK to Paris, and he sent me all the photos, and it was so fun, and I retweeted it. So I will always remember Archie. I mean, who's going to forget that, right? All right, so let's talk about Beef. Beef was marketed as a comedy. Mistake! Now, first off, the reason you might want to be paying attention to Beef, as I've mentioned before, is because this is the team, minus Ali Wong, which I feel is offensive, that are taking over Thunderbolts for the MCU. It's the director, the writer, and Steven Yeun is playing Sentry. I heard he's very comics accurate in terms of his costume, which I'm super excited to see. I'm going to be amazed, like cape and everything. Like, wow. So let's see. But that would be incredible if they actually pull that off. Although my Edna Mode turns in and goes, "You can't have capes?" All right. So anyway, all right. So Beef is a. I would hope that Ali. Rashad, I just want Ali Wong to have some role in Thunderbolts, even if it's a cameo, even if she's in, The Office where Val works. I just really would feel bad for her if there was a red carpet for Thunderbolts and they were all like, "Oh, it's the Beef team," and then Ali Wong wasn't there. That would make me feel bad. Thanks, Alan. So that would make me feel bad. I'd feel bad about that. So especially because she's so good on Beef. All right, so this is more like a Quentin Tarantino project. That's how it should have been advertised. It gets absolutely off the rails, especially when you get to episode 9. And it's only 10 episodes. And you might be like, I gotta get it to episode 9 to understand this show. Well, it's very enjoyable up until then. But with episode 9, it truly levels up to become something very special. Like when I watched episode 9, I was like, hats off to this whole team. Now I see why Kevin Feige scooped them all up. I wasn't totally getting it until then. I saw the talent, but I felt they were a little too dark and niche for the MCU. I was like, and I'm still worried that they're going to be talk about watered down. This is potent stuff. And so I'm a little bit nervous. But when I watched episode 9, I was like, these guys are great. And Ali Wong, hire everybody. I watched it in 2 nights. It's a very bingeable show. The episodes are about 30 to 40 minutes each. So I watched 1 through 5 the first night and 6 through 10 the second night. So it's about like 2 movies back to back, 2.5-hour movies back to back. And really, it's about a chance encounter where 2 people connect who are really 2 sides of the same coin, and they just totally spiral out of control. At first, I felt the show was about the pressures of life, and I felt that, like how stressful it is to be out there hustling. And it's never-ending problems. But I think that some people believe that there is, SMR Goose, you're going to have a great weekend watching it. But I think that some people believe that you can reach like a game over situation. And they even talk about that a little bit in terms of video games. I don't want to spoil the line. But, they talk about, do you reach a plateau where everything's great and you never have to worry about anything ever again? And the answer to that is obviously no. That is a myth that has somehow been created. Life is never like that. But I really, really was impressed with it. But then also, it had the guts to shine a light, ultimately, on 2 people who were just bad people. Now, it wasn't really so much their own fault, but I do feel that they're broken beyond repair. And that is unusual to ask people to have those as leads, But they were, and also I think it really explored how hurt people hurt other people. And how some people are so toxic. Hey, Jonathan, I'm glad you got gifted a membership. That some people are so toxic that there's nothing that you can do for them, certainly if you're not a professional. And that also, you should get away from them. And no disrespect. No, best of luck to you. I hope everything works out. But this is not a good idea. And so that, to me, was fascinating. Danny and Amy, played by Steven Yeun and Ali Wong, are truly horrible people. And I think that Steven Yeun is going to do an amazing job as Sentry. Just an absolute Sentry. And Tito just said, you're describing the Thunderbolts. Exactly. That's why, I agree with you, Tito. I felt that while I was watching it. I was like, that's why they're such a great fit with this team. And if they can bring that to the MCU, maybe they will do a better job with Suicide Squad. Because, this is basically Marvel's Suicide Squad. Just a team of people that are just so horribly broken that maybe they can do some good, but you're never going to fix them as people. And I'm excited to see Bucky and Yelena Belova in the hands of these people, of this creative team. This just sounds really, really good. Let's see. I saw somebody make a comment. Justin says, my husband and I couldn't get through the first episode. Acting and writing were cringe. Justin, I have friends who also had the same situation that you did. My husband is Japanese and wanted a good Asian represented show without so many cliches. Justin, if it's not for you and your husband, it's not for you and your husband. But I would urge you to maybe go beyond that, because I think people misunderstood what the show was going to be. They thought it was going to be a comedy. I think they thought it was going to be about Asian representation, although I obviously can't speak to that experience. But I have seen some people from the Asian community say that it does speak to some of the stressful aspects of that community, which I thought was nice. But it's really more about the hate and the brokenness and the stress of life. That's really more what it's about. All right, so I wanted to talk about the cast a little bit, and then we'll go into spoilers with the cast. But I just want to point out some actors here. Do I still have my arrow? No, I got rid of my arrow. Let's see if I can find it so I can show you who I'm talking about. Hold on, wait a minute. Why did I get rid of my arrow? It's so hard to find. How many freaking files do I have on this computer? Oh, I can't find it. How could I not find it? Oh, that's disappointing. All right, hold on. I'll use the box to talk about who I'm talking about. Whatever, man. Okay, I'll bring in story 2. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. Woo! Recognize this guy? He's from Umbrella Academy. And he's playing like a psycho here. That's right, J. King. Never get rid of your arrow. So there he is. That is Justin Min from Umbrella Academy, and he does a great job. So he was great. I really like this actor who plays Stephen Yeun's brother. This is young Mazzino, who plays Paul, and I thought he was just really a good find. I really liked him a lot. I thought he was a wonderful actor. He was good at playing, he was kind of like, Pete Davidson's character, Chad? He's like, okay, but then has hidden depths. This was kind of that situation as well. This actor here plays Ali Wong's husband. This is Joseph Lee. I thought his character was just like, he played such a kind but stupid person. And I thought he did a great job with it. He was really, really excellent. His character ended up being extremely complex. Then this character, this is David Cho. And there has been some scandal about David Cho. So I can't talk about David Cho in real life. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if he was making an extremely distasteful joke or if he really did those really horrible things. We'll get to Ashley Park, don't worry. But I have to say that within the show, David Cho was incredible as an actor. I can't speak to him again personally. I don't know what's going on with him. But as an actor and a comedian in the show, he was phenomenal. And really, he is basically, these two guys, Stephen Yeun and his brother's cousin, who is involved in a lot of shady stuff. He had some pretty good hustles going on, actually. I was impressed. And then, yes, here we go. This is Ashley Park as Naomi. I thought she did a great job in a role that was actually surprisingly important to the show. And also, I got to give a shout out here to Maria Bello, who was the co-writer on The Woman King and really effed that movie up with some of the choices she made, which is a shame. I can't talk about too much about Maria Bello without giving away the spoilers. We'll talk about her in a minute when we go to the spoiler section. Although, she did have my glasses on during the show, which I appreciated. And then also the other person I want to really point out, is this the mom? Is this the actress who played the mother? I wonder if that's her. Let's see here. Is this Patty Yasutake? If that is, George's mom was a fabulous character, and the costume and makeup for her were excellent. She was also fascinating. But then here, this little girl played Ali Wong's daughter, and let's see. I'm trying to make sure I get the name correct here. I have the cast list up here. Remy Holt. This is Remy Holt. She's an adorable actress. She was so cute, and she had to say some pretty, interesting lines, and she did a great job. So I loved her. She was adorable. She was involved in some pretty big action sequences, and she killed it. All right, so now we're going to talk about spoilers, okay? So if you have not seen the show, go watch it, and then you can come back. And I highly recommend that you do because it's so good. All right, spoiler time, baby. Here we go. Here's the spoilers. Woo! Okay. Bye if you haven't seen the show. Bye. Bye-bye. Or if you don't mind spoilers. Okay. Man, this show. All right. When did I know this was special? Hold on. Let me get, so I know where I am in my notes. Okay. As I said, episode 9. So Ali Wong's daughter gets kidnapped by accident. I don't know how she ended up in that car. Did George let his daughter get into a truck by herself? Right? And so I thought it was incredible. And I thought it was great when the Amber Alert went off, when they were all standing there and they were like, oh my gosh, that's the kid. So that was great. So anyway, they didn't have enough. He said, go get in the car. I can't, George, okay? So anyway, Ali Wong's character, Amy, said, why don't you come to my boss's house? She'd sold her company for $10 million to this. I thought it was great to see a woman being a major business titan, having like just billions of dollars. Basically like Maria Bello was playing like a Jeff Bezos. So she said, why don't you come to the house where I am right now and you can rob this place and you'll get way more than $500,000. So when this show became incredible, hey, Justin Atkins, was two things in particular. When Maria Bello's character got cut in half by the safe room, I never saw that coming. That was absolutely incredible. And they were like, obstruction, and it just cut her in half. And this had spiraled so out of control that a billionaire was killed. It was just incredible. And then I loved it when like some gas was released into the house, okay? And they were like, what kind of house is this? I thought that was amazing. And then at the very end of the episode 9, when Amy and Danny accidentally drove off the cliff, and you could see that from afar. That was absolutely incredible when they just drove off the cliff. And that's basically a metaphor for what they were doing with their behavior. They just totally drove off the edge of a cliff. That to me was incredible. I loved it. And I felt like the way this show had payoffs, like for instance, setting up Jordan, setting up her crazy house, setting up the safe rooms. Remember when she left Amy alone and said, I have to go look at safe rooms. I'll be back in a little bit. I mean, that was incredible. And so they set up all the dominoes, the chair. And the chair was what broke her leg, hurt her leg, so she couldn't get to the safe room fast enough. I mean, that was just incredible. That was absolutely amazing. And then, of course, Chekhov's rule that if you introduce a gun, it has to go off. And it did go off. The gun did go off. It went off, a couple of times, but in particular when George, who for some reason had come to rescue Amy, even though he had filed for sole custody of their daughter, you're like, George, make up your mind. George was so wishy-washy. You're like, George, you got to get a grip. And then he thought that even though they made up that Danny was attacking her, he shot Danny. And of course, the gun went off. And so that was great writing. That was just amazing writing. And I know some people don't like the final episode, and I knew they shouldn't have eaten those berries. I was like, don't eat the berries, Danny. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You can't just, eat whatever you find in the woods. And they got poisoned and they hallucinated, and it really allowed them to bond. And I think realize, they almost were like a toxic Adam and Eve. So it was almost like, I think it created a Garden of Eden kind of situation too, when you think about it, which is brilliant. That just occurred to me. And they ate the apple, I guess, maybe to a degree. I mean, it was just amazing. They really were just so evil and broken, beyond repair. But I thought that they kind of fixed each other up a little bit. And I thought it was great that even though George had gone to save her, she was in Danny's hospital room after he'd been shot, and she crawled up there to lie with him, and they had like this fast forward where you can see the light out the window showing the passage of time. And then he finally kind of came to, and he put his arm around her. And I was like, oh, the things you two are going to do together are going to be amazing. You know, like I kind of would like a sequel, to be honest with you. I don't know if they should have a sequel or not. I would leave it up to the creative team. I think the creative team is so strong. Oh, you think Danny died, 80s model? I hope not. That's sad. I hope that's not true. That would make me very sad. I was so glad Paul didn't die. I was just as nervous as Danny. But I would ask the creative team, I mean, who might be too busy now making Thunderbolts, but I'd be like, do you guys feel there should be a sequel? And if you have another story to tell about this, I would want to see it. But I'd also be okay leaving it the way it was. Yeah, he put his arm around her in the hospital bed. Oh, thanks, Charlie. But I just thought it was great. I just thought it was an absolutely incredible show. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I just loved it. And I thought it had some really interesting things to say. So does anybody have any questions or anything they want to say about Beef before I sign off? Then I must go. Yeah, Tito, I wouldn't do a season 2 lightly. But I'm curious what happened to Paul. I can't believe I thought throwing away Paul's college applications was crossing a line. I was like, you can't come back from that, Danny. That relationship's not going to be repaired. And also the fact that he couldn't take responsibility for doing the faulty wiring and burning down his own parents' house. At least they weren't in it, thank God. But I just thought I think Paul shouldn't get over that. I think that was too much. But I'm surprised also it's a little bit on Paul, because you're supposed to get a rejection letter. You don't just not hear from the colleges. You get an acceptance letter or a rejection letter. So he should have called up and been like, why haven't I heard from you? Also, he should have been like, why did nobody write me for an alumni interview? And also, that's a good lesson for everybody here. Mail your own stuff, man. Make sure it definitely goes in. John, you're being silly, John, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. 80s model says, did you know the actor who did George was the artist who did all the artworks for the intro? Oh, really? I don't think he has any artistic ability, even in real life. Oh, Casey, I've never had a Burger King original chicken sandwich. But, I got to tell you, when they were eating that junk food when they were depressed, I think everybody's been there. I think everybody felt that. Like when Danny would stand on the mountainside eating Burger King, trying to get the real estate agent on the phone. I was like, man, I feel that. I mean, that was incredible. I thought it was very relatable. Dory, I'm sorry you're missing stuff with work. SMR Goose, I don't eat Burger King. I think I had a little bit of Burger King when I was like in school, but there aren't a lot of Burger Kings in New York City, I got to be honest with you. And I really like McDonald's. I'm always going to go McDonald's. I like Wendy's too. I just never really liked Burger King. I like McDonald's, and then I'll take Wendy's. I am impressed with Wendy's healthy options, to be honest with you. You can get a baked potato at Wendy's. Baked potato and their delicious chicken nuggets. When I was in college, that was a delicious snack. Casey says there's a super sketchy Burger King in Times Square. I believe it. Tito, I don't know about Emmys for this show. I don't know about Emmys for Beef. I think Beef might be a little bit hard for people to understand, to be honest with you. I think it's very brutal. I don't know if it's for everybody. 80s model says, the real revelation for me was Ali Wong. I could feel her anger. I also really liked her speech about nobody's buying anything for her. And she felt like, who's going to buy something for Amy? Amy's going to buy something for Amy. And I felt that too. Even someone taking care of her emotionally. Just everybody was leaning on her and she had no one to lean on herself. And I guess that's why at the end, Danny did kind of take care of her. Danny carried her out of the canyon. That was all really nice. Now that I think, so it's so good. So many levels, so many layers. Sebastian said, should I tell my boss I'm starting a small business? I don't know, Sebastian. I mean, look at your contract, your employment contract. You might not be able to, so you better look into that. All right, well, I better get going. I'm meeting somebody. I'm meeting up with someone, so I don't want to be late. I had such a good time with you guys. I had such a good time, as always. So thank you so much for joining me for another live stream. 3 streams a week. I'll be seeing you next week. Have a great weekend, and of course, I'll see you on Sunday for Movie Math. All right, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.